I gotta sue my internet company.
Yo,
Yo, sorry about that.
can you not afford broadband internet, man? Like,
I
what's going
have
on?
no, I have three internets in my place. Starlink. I don't know, man. It's rough over here. All right.
Okay.
Luckily, the format that matters is a text one, so it's okay. It won't have this interruption. Maybe, yeah, it won't have this interruption.
Yeah.
We're getting to the juicy parts. I like the story we've painted so far with like discretionary into systematic and then like back to discretionary.
Yeah. Yeah, like the one thing I guess I did underplay was like the systematic side. I did end up building quite a strong intuition for microstructure. Um, the other thing that I could do apart from discretionary trading that is actually relevant to HFT is really understanding this thing they call microstructure, which basically means not just long-term prices and charts and stuff like this, but the exact nature by which orders hit the book, and they're moving from different geographies and they're getting onto like a matching engine, and how does the matching engine process them, and is there some randomness and the latency of that, like this kind of stuff matters a lot when you're dealing with HFT, right? Like especially if it's passive HFT and you have to keep canceling and like replacing orders. So that's something that I did actually hone like a very strong understanding of, and um, helped that side of the business, like the more algorithmic side of the business. Um,
Yeah,
understanding like what to prioritize and stuff like that.
microstructure is like a game in and of itself.
It's like a very niche game, but also like it's not as big as making massive bets and holding them for a long time. But like there's a it matters a lot. And when you look at crypto now, every like DEX that tries to exist, whether it's GMX and you have this kind of Oracle microstructure, or it's like a hyperliquid and you have these vaults versus or like these hybrids with AMMs, the microstructure is literally everything. I mean, it determines whether there's enough balance between the different participants that can facilitate, like price discovery in a way that's it's like not ripping people off, and it creates like an ecosystem of participants that are willing to participate in, you know, of course, Hyperliquid's having some issues right now, but like certainly like their background in HFT, trading HFT, I think gave them like a distinct advantage of understanding the microstructure enough to design like something better than you know some of the other dexes, let's say.
In broad strokes, like how would you sort of categorize the different microstructure metagames? Like the ones I can think of off the top of my head are just like how quickly the exchange processes like canceling orders versus placing new ones, or like where which place leads price discovery. Is this like a leading place or a lagging place? And what are some other
Mhm.
ones that you like think about a lot?
Yeah, I mean, lead lag is the biggest thing in HFT, like on this microstructure level. That is the most important thing. You get one thing that we consider a signal, which is think about it from the other side. Like you're the guy executing, and you can't hit every market in the world at the same time and perfect like beta ratios and everything. You're just gonna say, look, I want to buy a ton of equities. I'm just gonna like buy this one exchange, and then there's a lead lag where every other market that's correlated has to react. And you have two types. You have the geographical one where this is maybe like what people think about when they hear HFT. They think about these like undersea cables and wires through the mountains, and of course these things move to microwaves, and then eventually like even more atmosphere plasma guns or whatever the hell they're doing now. Um, but this like geographical arbitrage is one, and then there's actually like an intra exchange lead lag, or like even within CME, the 10-year bond moves. Who's going to take the 5-year bond? And at that point, usually you're getting into hardware, it's FPGAs, it's all this ASICs, all this stuff that, um, that's like a game where I never liked playing that game, and it's a really shitty game to play that specific game because you're making a ton of money one year and then you're making zero after that because somebody figured out one extra trick and then your entire like firm disappears. So,
It's very winner
but
takes all and zero
it's winner
sum.
takes all. It's zero sum, and it's like it takes a huge amount of investment. Like you think you make a lot of money, but if you don't like reinvest it all to keep ahead, then the next year you're kind of lost it. So that's a shitty game, but you actually like do want to be decent at all of these if you want to do the full thing well. It's good to have, maybe you're not an A plus, but you're like a solid B at everything, and then you're still in the game.
That's like a common theme, not just in HFT or trading, just in life. Just like being good at more things stacks super linearly.
Yeah, I mean that's the story of my success, I would say.
Being pretty
Even when
good
I
at
was
everything.
Well, I mean, like eventually you get excellent at the combination of the things, and if the combination of the things is a game, if that matters, then you're the best because you're the only one that has a combination of, you understand the microstructure and the speed, and you have the micro. But then, like maybe you're not the best at each individual game, and you don't win that trophy. And it's similar to poker. Like I was never the best poker player on like a specific variant, like Omaha or Hold'em or whatever. But I was, one of the best at like the mix, like the overall. And so, when there's like a mixed game going on, um, as in life, sometimes there is a mixed game. You have to like compete in every dimension. Definitely like entrepreneurship is like that. Then that comes in handy.
It's interesting. It is interesting that like your trading style of being kind of like a jack of all trades does reflect sort of your personality that comes out in games and other aspects.
Yeah, I mean, my strength is like I'm very curious. I don't get bored. I can sit in front of a computer like forever and just there's so much that engages my mind. I have to force myself to, go go exercise and do stuff because I just get so immersed in stuff. And I find micro things that other people get bored. I just find them, pretty interesting. Like you can always dive deeper and understand more. And there's yeah. So I'm always wanting to like learn about things that um I don't know about, and it stacks so well. After many years, you start tapping into, your experience in different things that you've done before, and yeah, the funny thing is, like you said in the intro, like even like now, like I'm doing things like venture. I mean, venture is like so far away from HFT, right? Literally the opposite, and nobody in their right mind would give me money to like venture invest um, a few years ago, right? Like when I didn't have any experience in it, because like obviously like there's going to be a learning curve, and I don't know what I'm doing. Um, but I kind of did it anyway. I just like self funded it, and yeah, you just figure it out.
Crypto's interesting in that regard. I mean, like in like TradFi, tying together HFT and discretionary trading, it's always made sense. But it was never HFT and venture; those are just completely opposite scales. But in crypto, because of the nature of the market making deals, and because like liquidity is such a desired thing for all these projects, like if you can provide us liquidity, then it's like we're willing to give you a slice of the token. It's a different game. You
Not
see a
only
lot
that,
more.
but you actually like understand crypto venture investments, like the projects themselves well, because whether we like it or not, like most of crypto is around creating infrastructure for exchanging tokens, right? Like that's what if you boil it down to what an L1 is doing, it's usually just creating tokens and then people are trading these assets on some decks or whatever it is. Like it all comes down to that. And actually having a trading background can help you evaluate whether a fucking dark pool on some ZK thing, like does this actually add any value to people who are trying to exchange assets and create capital formation and price discovery.
For sure. This casino thesis has only gotten stronger since 2022. How have you like I guess incorporated it in like your long term vision of crypto?
Um, I guess like because of my background, spending a lot of times in actual casinos,
you,
and
you grew
then
up in the
like,
casino.
yeah, I was molded by it. I was born in it. So, uh, um, and then like having over well over a decade of more like tradfi markets and experience, the fact that these two things are intertwined in crypto, personally, I'm just very comfortable with, and I do think that yes, over time, with the U.S. government buying Bitcoin, holding Bitcoin and stuff like this, we're having more where like the institutionalization aspect matters more and more, and that's totally fine. Um, but I don't mind being in the trenches and seeing both sides.
Okay, fair enough. Um, how do you see the crypto markets evolving in the coming years? Not just, I guess, from every avenue you're looking at, through HFT, through venture, through discretionary.
I mean, in the markets overall, obviously, it's like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And the market wants new Ponzi's. So like, we didn't see like an NFT cycle this time around, for example, because people tried it, it didn't work, and then they tried this meme coin thing because there's like some story about how like it's more liquid, so maybe this one will work. And I guess like right now maybe it doesn't work, but I'm sure they're going to add some element to it where well, yeah, like it's a meme coin, but um it has like some distribution. I don't know, like something's going to change, and we're going to get it again, right? But it's not going to be the same. It's always going to like evolve. People have to like believe that they're going to make it, and the collective belief just drives this reflexive nature. So I think like we'll keep seeing more cycles of games, I guess, but it won't be the same. And maybe at some point we run out of um, like new Ponzi's, but people are pretty creative with this stuff, and yeah, I expect like AI is going to play a big role in the future of crypto, and that yeah, like I've been publicly like very bullish on crypto and AI merging, and I think that's what the future holds.
I mean, a lot of other traders have said that like AI is going to take over what they're doing, in a few years. Do you think that holds true for what you're doing?
No, I think like maybe eventually the tsunami of AI takes us all and sweeps the entire world, but I do feel like I'm at one of the highest peaks, and where like the water level's rising, but by the time it gets to me, it'll be a while. Um, the parts of my brain that I use um, are not the type of thing that are easy to like train data on and replicate. Especially nowadays, I would say I use a lot more like hybrid stuff, like combination of things for generating alpha. And when I say alpha, it's not just like necessarily like putting a trade on, but just like running a business and adding value. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like my approach and my knowledge is a bit too specialized to train something general on. So I'm not personally worried about it.
Fair enough. Um, I guess obviously in the grand scheme of things, your age is like very young relative to a lot of people in the Market Wizards books, but like relative to the participants in crypto markets, I'd say that skews towards like mid to late 20s, early 30s. Like you are kind of like a an old man, so to say.
Yeah.
What do you think is contribute? I mean, like a lot of people. What do you think has contributed to like your longevity trading this space? I mean, because like I mean, yes, they're younger, but also markets are trading 24/7. They're not trading like 9 5 or something. So like there's a lot more events going on, even though like the time is a lot less. It ages you a lot quicker, and like the cycles move a lot quicker. So yeah, what has contributed to your longevity?
I mean, one, it's all very natural. So at this point, there's a lot of chunking that's happening. Like I've chunked so much knowledge and so much pattern recognition, where a situation comes up, I can instantly tap into some cognitive like structure that I've created, and just tap into that, um, and instantly like have a way to react to it. So that's a huge advantage, I think. I've purposely built this up over the years. I remember listening to Ray Dalio for the first time like a decade ago, and I was like, this guy doesn't seem like super high IQ. Like he's kind of old, he's kind of slow.
I had the
But
same
then I
vibe.
realized, yeah. But then I'm like, okay, clearly like there's hardware and there's software, and like software, like for a human, right? Like a human software, human like hardware is like it's just like the raw IQ, and then like software is like the way they think and make decisions. And I just decided, like, yeah, I have decent hardware, but I just want to I want to be more like this kind of guy. Like I want to be more like software. And like how do I get my software the best? So um I've just been investing for a long time and trying to have the best like judgment, best decision making. And judgment is like one thing that is just, it's valuable in any scenario, any state of the world. I mean, these like AIs will only really like make a difference in the world when their judgment becomes, very good. And it's one of the hardest things to do.
Got it. Is there anything that you do that is particularly helpful in optimizing your software? I like that analogy, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get out of your comfort zone. Like even for me, I'm a very by nature, maybe it's because my parents are just like complete opposites, and I've just always been this very balanced, like true neutral. I did like the quiz with the lawful chaos, good, bad, and I'm just like really in the middle there. I'm just a true neutral character. Um, but sometimes, if the like let's say like after the Trump election, um, you know, I think we talked around the time, and I just expressed to you that I was just like super max bullish, and I would stay, for some time, even though it's my nature to, yeah, we got like a huge move. Let me just bet on some mean reversion or pullback. But there are these moments where you grow as a trader, where you step outside of your comfort range, and my comfort range would have been like, okay, I made my, I rode it from 65 to 75. Let me just sit on the sidelines now and wait for like a cheaper price. I was pretty proud that I went against my nature and just kind of, I didn't make it all the way. I didn't make it to 100, but I made it maybe to like 90 or something. So like these kind of spots, you have to just train yourself to just get out of your comfort zone and just push a little bit further.
Got it. Got it. Um, I'm gonna rearrange the order when I do the written version. So this podcast format is gonna be a little bit out of order, but I do think it's important to talk about, like, I guess your most favorite trade or the trade that you're the most proud of in your career, whether it be crypto or not.
I mean, definitely like the March 2020 thing. I think will always be stuck in my head as um the thing I'm like actually proud of myself, where I look back after just killing myself for that month trying to make everything work, and um just feeling like for the first time that, yeah, like I can say I'm proud of what I of what I've done. So nothing will come close. Like it doesn't really matter if obviously I've traded much bigger amounts since then, especially these days. The numbers are getting bigger, but um just from like a career defining and resilience perspective, stepping into a market where like no one's quoting, and figuring out that there's so much value to you being able to approximate some price discovery that the world actually needs. Like this is like the US Treasury market, like these are US bonds, and no one's willing to like create price discovery. And Yeah, I'll always be the most proud of that, regardless of anything that happens later.
Okay, fair enough. What about your worst trade that maybe you learned the most from?
The worst trade, I mean, coming into crypto in 2020, from TradFi and like really focusing on the markets, uh, I made like a lot of kind of stupid mistakes. The main one was shorting alts during like this period of late 2020. They had gone up 10x, and then you think that surely this piece of shit, Cardano or Dogecoin, like some of the ones that I shorted, uh, surely like, 'cause in TradFi, there's some semblance. There's some like we at least have some idea of some fair value, and that fair value matters. Like people are trying to trade around this fair value. But with these alts, like I guess I had to learn the hard way that like there's no fair value anyway. And so when you take that away, it's just like momentum and just like pure greed, and like the greed is much more than I thought. I really came in with the expectation that if something goes up 3x, people are just going to get out, and then there's going to be like some selling. But people are going for more, and then they just like, I remember shorting Dogecoin. I shorted it several times from like a cent and a half down to like 1 cent or like half a cent. I did this several times, and then like one day, like Elon decided he was going to adopt this thing, and I took like a very, very big loss when it just skyrocketed to 10 cents. Um, and I guess I repeated that mistake many times, with Cardano, with like, and like, that's been a bit of a weak point for me, which I've now turned into something that I can manage, and actually is profitable. But I would say shorting alts was like a big leak that I had for years, which now is one of the most profitable trades that I do. But you really have to like learn it. I mean, I've written a thread about how it's like a dark art, and it's only for like masters. I mean, you gotta like really understand the game you're playing to short alts. It's a crazy one.
Yeah, it seems like that's a lot of people come from TradFi and they see these coins. They're just like, it's a free short. All the supply is coming. It's just inevitable it goes down. But they always it's always like a lesson in path dependency. Eventually, that they learn.
I mean, this Fartcoin run, I imagine a lot of that was just like you said, driven by the liquidations of TradFi guys, trying to come in and put some margin and short it, and then they just sort of like fed on those liquidations probably from those guys.
Have you noticed that, like, especially when things get quiet, like squeezing shorts becomes like one of the favorite games to play in the alt markets?
Yeah, I mean, you get all kinds of funny moves that are similar to the what the hyperliquid guy who's trying to manipulate things right now. You have a lot of smart people around the world looking at crypto markets, because like we discussed, this is like a good use of time if you're just trying to independently make money, and you have like a really strong mind for it. And I mean, they'll find like these spots that are structurally in their favor. Whether they want to call them highly profitable trading strategies like Avi, or it's just some of these spots, like you said, like squeezing shorts, or whatever, manipulating oracles or all this stuff. Um, yeah, especially when things are quiet, people have to go further out to find stuff to make money on.
Yeah, like I've noticed in altcoins, maybe like in TradFi equity markets, there's less crowding, but like in altcoins and crypto, because the participants are like not very diverse, is my interpretation. There tends to be a lot of crowding in certain coins that get like really hunted hard in certain scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is like shorting it is so difficult that it actually ends up making prices go too high. and then like there's money to be made shorting, and then it's like this vicious cycle where like people try too much because there's so much free money because everything is obviously overpriced. But then it sort of becomes crowded, and funding gets negative. All this like weird stuff happens. Um, so it's definitely like one of the most interesting aspects because of perpetual markets especially are different than calendar futures, and there's more um and you don't have like margin calls. You can just like suddenly get liquidated on an account without having the chance to top up. So it's like a very unique game, I would say. That's not it's not the same in trad markets.
Yeah, I feel like the life cycles in crypto are also much quicker. Like like if TradFi is maybe like an elephant that it takes them 30 years to mature. Like crypto is more like a fly that might live in an entire life in 3 months.
Yeah, everything is accelerated. Um, and yeah, because of the lack of shorting, like the bubbles just get bigger. Um, and then like there just seem to be like a lot of like I don't want to call them retards, but take that out of the transcript. But you know, there's like a lot of like really stupid money and that does stuff that makes no sense. Like um, they're buying tops of stuff. Like when the Trump token comes out, there's people buying it at $90, right? Like, or $80. Like there's people that are just like not looking at prices, not thinking about anything. They're just clicking buttons, right? It's just like when you're playing at a poker table and someone's just calling you on the river and they have like three high, and like obviously they can't win. But like what are you even doing? Like how do you have money? Like what's going on? Like there's still like this population in the markets. Obviously, it starts to like get dwindled down over time, but then maybe they find more and they come back. It's a weird combination of professionals and inefficiency.
Yeah, it's almost like a poker analogy you can make of it. Like I guess it's certain market regimes, like the aggregate player gets so like call stationy that you just get incentivized to like never bluff, just like how you might never short in certain regimes.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's just like an easier way to play it sometimes.
Um, is there anything that you, I guess, want to discuss with the readers in terms of like life lessons or like takeaways or just any message to the world?
Well, I mean, we've definitely done a good job of touching upon some of it. I don't know, it's such a broad, such a broad question.
Okay, I'll narrow it
Um,
down a little bit. Um, I guess as like a trader in this space, let's say like you're trying to get better. What do you think helped you the most improve as a trader, and what would you recommend to other people?
yeah, I mean, this is a good one. By far and away, it's just like internal psychology. This is true for many things, but especially for a trader. If you have clouded judgment because of your ego, you're gonna have a much harder time leveling up, and almost everybody does. And it's the kind of thing where for a lot of people they attach their identity and their whole self to certain aspects, and um, the way you get very high results and like world class at something is you have to have no clouding on your judgment. And what that usually entails is letting go of your ego and kind of rebuilding from a very solid foundation when it comes to like your thought process and your acceptance of weaknesses and strengths. Like it's something that I guess takes years for some people. For some people it's easier. It just sort of depends, like which part of your um psychological journey you're on. But I see like a lot of young people where I kind of want to tell them, look, like I can see how involved your self-belief is in like everything you're doing. The only way you're gonna make it is you have to just let everything go. Just be like, hey, I'm willing to start from from ground zero. Like just let your ego just accept being nothing for a little bit and just build back better. And you can build back really quickly, but you have to build it from a solid foundation. And for me, getting through, some of the challenges, and I had a lot of self-doubt. I guess some people call it imposter syndrome. A lot of the top traders that we know in the space, I talk to them, and plenty of them have, maybe even still now have, like, imposter syndrome, despite being like legends in trading and in the whole space. um I think that's okay. I mean, it's healthier than the opposite, where you don't go through that process of doubt. And because the doubt is healthy, like it kind of makes you challenge yourself. Are you really good? Do you already have what it takes? Like, do you need more? Like, it's okay to have that self-doubt. um I think the end goal, like the god tier mode, is when you even get out of that self-doubt. I don't think imposter syndrome is really like the end state. I think I had imposter syndrome until about a year ago, I would say. So that's many years.
1 year ago.
Yeah.
Really?
So, like,
That's
that's
crazy.
that. Yeah, I would say, like, around the time of, like, winning my bracelet, accomplishing kind of like the last few things I had on my bucket list. Um, I kind of finally felt like, okay, maybe now I'm actually good. Fine. I'm not an imposter anymore. But and then, like, I think that unlocked me. Like, I feel like there's a new level now that it it unlocked not having that imposter thing on my back. And just coming from, like, a very, confident but very humble place. The thing I hate about crypto and, like, a lot of these young founders, like, in their 20s, um they have success, and sometimes it's like crazy monetary success. So, like, I'm sure everybody can think of specific examples of founders that just made a ton of money launching something in crypto, which happened to, the token went up a lot, let's say. And then they just start getting, like, really cocky and arrogant, and it just changes their personality, and they think that they've solved it. You know, they've they're the shit, and they become a bit unbearable, and it usually leads to their downfall. I mean, we've had SBF, we've had a lot of cases of founders getting way too cocky because they had some number go up, and they attached their ego to it. Um, yeah, I'm always gonna stay humble. I'm never gonna think that I'm some special category over other people. And I think that grounding is really necessary to keep growing.
I like that. I like that takeaway. You have to avoid the one hit wonder syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, so many people do the one hit, and then they just assume they can replicate it and everything else. And maybe if they focus and keep grinding, they can. But yeah, there's a lot of overconfidence that builds when, especially if you're young, and you just suddenly come into millions of dollars in different ways, and it usually doesn't end well.
It's fair enough. I always have this like analogy that like trading is like therapy in some sense, because you have to be like calibrated with how the world actually is in order to like consistently make money. You can't have any of these
100.
forward biases.
That is my favorite part about trading. Um, it's not about, like, going into a room and bullshitting your way through it. It's really like the great equalizer, where it doesn't matter who your parents are and who you know. Like, if you're on the order books, it's just gonna be the truth comes out. That's it.
For sure. And I mean, yeah, I've noticed, going back to what you were saying earlier about like being pretty good at a lot of things. Like I learned this concept recently called instrumental rationality, um, which basically just kind of measures how good you are at like achieving your goals. Um, and I think it's like a good way to sum up like the hardware software analogy, or maybe just like it's similar to that analogy that you made in that like, you know, I think a lot of the top traders I've met are, they're obviously very, very talented, a very good hardware, but they're like not necessarily like, you know, the best hardware in the world, but their software is really what sets them apart. And just like tying all their competencies together in order to achieve an end goal, like that's like meta skill is typically, from what I've seen, just like off the charts high.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, you'll have more conversations in this series, and I'm sure a lot of the guys can talk about their this software and their approach. But that's going to be a common theme, I think. For me, like the risk versus reward is like how I structure my trading. Other people have different ways that they just keep extracting alpha. Um, I have like a probability distribution in my head at all times. And we talked a little bit about this the other day where you don't have positions on most of the time. You just go to sleep and you want to wake up fresh and put some trades on and go back to sleep when they're closed. Um, I kind of have this like rolling, distribution of positions, and I always have like I've talked about this in some of my threads, but I have like a fair value for a lot of assets, and obviously like they don't need to have any underlying value. It's just fair value basically means within the time horizon that I'm trading, where is the risk versus the reward balanced? That's the point at which I don't want to have a position, because if it's balanced there's no edge. Like if I think Bitcoin right now, actually, like I don't have like a huge position right now, let's say at 85, because I feel like this is sort of like a I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up 5K up or down, right? There's no reason for me to have like a big position. Um, so I have like for all these different assets, I have this like risk reward balance point. And as things start to deviate from their balance point, I'll start adding, and then I'll add more and add more, and until I hit my max position. And my max position is determined by you know if this goes cataclysmically wrong, I still don't lose, a huge percentage of anything, right? So I kind of calculate my sizing that way. And then I scale in around this like risk reward. And this is like how I extract alpha from the market. The hard part, of course, is determining like where is the risk reward balanced. There's a few ways that you can do this. You have to, at the end of the day, like aggregate 5 or 10 things, because you have different aspects you have to consider. What's the cost basis of the people that bought, um, like short-term, mid-term factors. And, I used to be very good at doing this when I was trading HFT and I was just sitting in front of the desk all day, I had nothing else to do, just staring at the charts. I became, you know, very talented at doing it intraday. Like on a very short time span, I could look at the risk reward, for the next minutes slash hours, and just like trade around it. I kind of had to make a decision in 2021. Um, it was another like big part of my career where I had two choices. It was either just fucking trade the bull market, just trade, like do nothing else, spend all my time trying to extract money by just trading. And I calculated what I thought I mean, I'll give a number. I really kind of pinned it that if I did nothing else and it just traded for 2021, I would make 100 million of like trading profit. And I based this, kind of based on my hourly results of paying attention, and like, just it was like a reasonable assumption. I had like that choice to just do that. Alternative was, do a little bit of it, maybe like 10%, but spend most of my time, building an HFT firm, building a company that will provide value long term. Um, and I think it's a tough decision because there's no certainty, right? So you can make like the quick money or and then like try to keep doing that, or you can have something that is more lasting in the world, I guess. And I know, Thicky, we've talked a little bit about, your thoughts about your own trading. Sometimes you feel like, yeah, I made X, but like it's not recurring revenue. Like it's sort of like if I don't keep doing it, no one else is like it was like a one-off. Um, you remember this conversation?
Yeah, yeah, you have to discount it a lot. There's no like future cash flows with
Yeah,
certain types
there's
of trading versus others.
yeah, exactly. So like do you prefer to make, 100 bananas this year, or do you prefer to like, create a banana factory that, maybe is gonna make like 20 this year and maybe 30, but then like you can keep kind of growing that, right? Um, and that year I kind of decided that I wanted to do more than just, trade myself, and I really enjoy the aspect of building a business and having a team and growing with them and creating like this more like lasting element. So that's thankfully worked out for me. I mean, I definitely could have made a lot more money in 2021, but I wouldn't have the pleasure of being in the incredibly like fortunate spot I am today. And the last thing on this is like one thing I've done, which is kind of weird in my career. I've tried to cap my like annual like jump in net worth, and I tried to cap it at like a maximum 3x.
Really? Why?
Yeah, yeah. So
So what do you do with the rest of
yeah.
the money? You just give it away, or?
No, I stopped making money, and like I spend my time on like training myself, and like instead of trying to make like imagine you're a poker player and you made 100,000 one year, and then the next year, you're up 250. You spend the rest of the year like not playing and just like studying like all the you just like you go into study mode, right? So you're building a foundation for the next jump, and you're focusing all your time and effort on that instead of like making more money that year. And there's two, like I've done this for, since the beginning of my trading career, right? So like, it's been like 13 years of doing this. And I just target like a 2x a year. And I've kept that. So it's been 13 years of like 2x. Yeah, it has.
Really?
Uh,
Every single
yeah.
year you've 2x your net worth.
Yeah, I mean, some years it's a
Right.
1.5, some years it's like a 2.6, whatever. But it's
Right.
sort of like
It averages
it's
out.
quite it averages out, at this rate. And the way you keep it sustainable is because like when you're running above trend, you start using your brain space to like think about, okay, what is going to be needed for like the next year? Like forget this year, I don't want to keep going. What's the next step going to take? Like what do I need to build? What kind of pieces do I need to put together? And you have that mental space, and this has like two huge benefits. One is like psychologically, we talked about the fact of making too much money too quickly. And I'm not experienced it myself, but just like looking at people who went from like sub 1 million to like 100 million like really quickly. I mean, like, how many of these fuckers are like just doing drugs all day and like just or like blowing up or like not appreciating, what they have, and or just being assholes? Like, this like full of examples of these people who have done this, right? And if you just like keep keep a rate that is like healthy for the mind, um, that's like just like worked really well for me. I don't know, like I feel like it has like it just keeps you very balanced, and you're always happy like every year. Like if you peak too early, right? Again, I don't want to give specific examples of people, but if you have like sudden success and you had your best year that you're going to have in your career, when you're like 28 or something, And that's the peak. It kind of fucks with you. I mean, I imagine like professional athletes,
Yeah.
they kind of have to deal with this as well, right? Like because unfortunately, like for them, it's just like physical. They can't do that much. They can't use software past a certain level. Um, but it's just like it's a much happier life if you can always look forward to more growth. And you know, like we talked about like compensation as well. Like, people never like to take steps down. Like if you're paying somebody like a lower bonus than the previous year, um, it doesn't feel good, and it doesn't really matter what the numbers are. So somebody would rather make, 100K and then make 200 and then make 300, rather than make like 800 and then like make 200. Even though they have more money, but they're just like, okay, like, am I going in the wrong direction? Like, we're kind of wired in a way where we just get like unhappy on a primal like ape level if we feel like we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So, I mean, you're kind of trying to avoid a blow off top in your P&L by, when you hit a certain milestone, you start optimizing more for longer term. You might defer your comp for over the next few years.
Yeah, and I think like if I look at like someone like Ken Griffin, I don't know him personally, but they seem to have this type of trajectory where there's always like a next level, but it seems to happen slowly. But then after like a decade, suddenly like people start noticing, and I found that with myself as well. I mean, um, every year it feels like without me doing anything, it's just I become more impactful. I have like more influence in the world. I'm getting contacted by, all the publication. Like I'm not even doing anything. It just sort of like grows organically. And I think that's like a much I don't know, I really enjoy that part where it sort of like happens organically and slowly rather than trying to be like like an overnight kind of success.
Right. Do you think that, I mean, I don't know if you've experienced one yet, but don't you think it's inevitable that you'll hit maybe like a 4-year trough, or like, you know, just like a one of those, like a
I don't
longer
know.
term?
I mean, obviously, like mathematically, like at some point, like you have to, right? Like, I mean, yeah, like I would say that after like I think I have a few more years of like this run rate, and then I guess at some point, maybe it's just not sustainable. Um, and that's okay. There's like laws of physics. um, but it's different than like having a. You mean like a drawdown, or just like an actual like
Or maybe just
which
like
aspect?
a tough market period where you don't grow as much as you want to. Maybe you make less than previous years for many years in a row.
For many years in a row. I mean, it's certainly possible. I think like when you have this like more general intelligence, like the more like AGI type of like it's very general and it can be applied to different things. Then if the one thing like, we talked about the firms that just have like a speed advantage on like the nanoseconds and then it goes
Right.
away and then they make zero. So I've always tried to stay away from putting eggs in that kind of basket. Um, I mean, the nice thing is like Selene at this point, the firm I've built is just has like so many different arms and like some can outperform and underperform in different years and um obviously like if the entire crypto market stops existing then we'll have to like adapt and go to TradFi, but even that door we've kind of left open. Like we have the ability to do that, so um yeah, I'm not like too worried. Like if you start building resilience into your growth, it's okay. I have been like surprised by it. I really thought that by the time I was 40, I would like stop learning so much. I thought that I was kind of keeping like a mental reference in my head of like where I thought I was on like a learning curve. And I was like at a 92, and then okay, like next year I'm at 95%. And then now I'm like a 97. I just kind of estimated that by the time I was 40, I would be done. I'd be like close to 100, and like there wouldn't be much more to learn. It's just execution now, and you just sort of execute and you have a different thing. And then like when I was 39, I went from what I considered to be like 95 to like 102. And then you realize that it's actually not out of 100 because it doesn't make sense. You have about 102. And then it's actually like, probably like out of like 500. and you're just like nowhere near, like you're just so far from knowing, like there's so much more. And so I've ended up accepting that my 40s are going to be like a lot more learning and growth than I thought. I thought I would just just execute, but there's like so much that we don't know, and it's not about just me. Like I think collectively, like we're all learning so much more that we didn't expect.
40 is the new 25.
Yeah, I think so.
We've talked about your sleep habits before. I'm surprised. I mean, you mentioned you sleep 4, 5, 6 hours a night routinely over the course of years. I'm curious how you manage your health and manage your burnout with that little sleep.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the aspects where I'm still learning actively and I'm still optimizing and improving. Um, there's the psychological aspect we talked about, which is like huge, and then there's the like physical aspect, and this is probably still my weak point. Um, I have gotten like a lot more, um, I guess like effective than I used to be on like the physical side. I remember you know, having to change my diet a lot. There were foods that were just like slowing me down. If I had like a bowl of cereal, I would be like semi comatose for like a few hours.
It's the
like there's
sugar.
like certain it's I don't know, it might be the gluten sugar. I don't even know, but I just have some eggs now and some some protein and I'm just like good to go. Um, so you kind of like learn how to keep your energy levels up. I mean, certainly like when I went from being a poker player to getting like a trading job, and I had to wake up at 6 a.m. every day to look at the market open. I mean, I was like dying. I mean, I'm a nocturnal person, and then I'm not meant to wake up at 6 a.m. I mean, it's just like really, it's not with my sleep, whatever like DNA type is not meant to do that. Um, so. Uh, like I think at this point, my sleep, I got a Oura ring. Thank you, Salsa, in the chat here for sending me one. I track it. It's not good, like it's in the 60s, 65. I'm trying to optimize it. It's still something that I think I need to do to kind of get to the next level. The one thing that I've done well for the last 10 years is biohacking. So when it comes to cognitive sharpness and enhancement, I've tried a lot of stuff. I don't have anything particular to recommend people because it's all like everyone reacts differently. But a lot of the stuff is pretty safe to take. um, and
What's worked for you? What's been like the game changer for you? Is there one supplement?
I mean, unfortunately, you have to kind of rotate because your body gets used to stuff. So, like functional mushrooms are one that, for some periods they're very good, like lion's mane, chaga, like this kind of stuff. And then if you take it every day, I mean, the effect kind of goes away. Um, L-tyrosine is one that um, gives you like a calm focus. I think like I've recommended that to some people, and it's worked well for them. Um, Yeah, like usually for me, unfortunately, like the last years have been very stressful, and so a lot of it is like literally just trying to keep my stress level under control. So like ashwagandha and this kind of stuff. Thankfully, I don't need to resort to what I like in 2016, 2017 trading markets, living in the Bay Area. Once weed was legalized, I was I was calming myself down with some cannabis substances, which I don't think is the best option. Uh, and I don't do this like Wolf of Wall Street method either, where you go to the bathroom and knock one out every time you're stressed. So um, yeah, I would say like yeah, there's a lot of like stress reducing stuff to take nowadays um, that helps. I mean, you don't want to like let your stress levels get too high. And then you mentioned burnout. Another one that I'm learning, sometimes you just have to leave some money on the table. It fucking hurts to do that, like, but but in the long run, you lose more if you just get burnt out. Um, I think this year I'm getting to the point where I'm allowing myself a little bit of downtime. I think last year I kind of fucked up. I definitely like messed up part of the year by not. I got burnt out like pretty hard at some point, and it just takes a huge physical toll. I mean, your body just rebels against you. So I'm still learning.
I mean, I'm surprised you've been able to keep it up for so long. I don't know. It sounds like you've been doing this for such a long time, and I mean, like respectfully, like most people in the space that are like really good they don't look good. Like the health catches up to them, but like you still look like quite youthful for your age. I'm surprised. I don't know how you've been able to keep it up. I don't know if you've taken long breaks. I don't know if you have over the past decade.
No, there's been not much breaks. I think, and just the mindset. I mean, like the other thing, like I remember a conversation we had maybe like 18 months ago, and it was more like you were kind of just starting to run your money and run it up, and you're focusing on the markets and doing the trades. And I remember I was telling you like I was kind of jealous that you're in the trenches. Like I want to be doing this instead. I'm like managing business and all this stuff, but I
I
want to be
remember.
in there.
Hmm.
I started feeling kind of old. I was like feeling tired, old, like stressed, and I remember, and then one day I just had this epiphany that. Um, because the thought process was, why, it would have, how nice it would be to be like, like one of these 25-year-old kids that just like have all their years ahead and they're trading and making millions now and doing all this stuff. Like that would be nice. And and then it just like, I don't know, like something clicked. It was just like very obvious that um it's just a mindset thing, and you can do it. Like there's nothing actually stopping you. It's just a mental block. And I can see a lot of my, high school uh people from the same year, they're same age, and they're just like just giving up, and this is my life now and this is my thing, and I just accept it. And uh, I've just realized that you can completely reset it completely, and it just changes how you look. Like my hair like went from being gray, like it regained its color by itself. You just get this like energy again, and you realize that it's just a cognitive blocker and you don't need to have it.
I can resonate with this a lot. A lot of it's just a complete mental. It's weird because like as a kid, I used to think hypnosis and stuff like that was like complete bullshit. But now I'm just like, if anything works to get you out of like a certain frame of mind, then like it works, just like scientifically. Right.
Yes.
You surround yourself with like a lot of young people, like everyone crypto Twitter, like the Steady Lads podcast, all like in their 20s, early 30s. Like I guess that's like a way you keep young is by surrounding yourself with younger people.
Yeah, I think like ultimately like being in a growth mindset keeps you from feeling like you've peaked. Like it's this thing we said, like you don't want to feel like your best years are behind you, and now you just have to adapt to your retirement years past. Oh, you just remember the days you used to throw the ball really far. Yeah, like yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, the good thing is like we have examples in the world that we can like look at, where people are just keep crushing into their older ages. You don't have to go like as far as like Warren Buffett, but there's it seems like very possible to peak a lot later. Um, and the other thing that energizes me just for better or worse, like getting feedback, getting results from the world, and seeing that the things you're doing are actually impactful, just kind of makes you keep pushing. I mean, I would love to slow down. And I'm actually like a very lazy person. I've said this a few times, and um, it's weird to say because on the one hand, like I- yeah, I've probably been working harder than as much as anyone in the space, really, like for years now. Just like nonstop grind, grind, grind. But I'm extremely lazy by nature. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't mind just sitting in front of my computer and just looking at some fucking poker solvers. It's just so like I could just do this and just be a couch potato. But the thing that is the best motivation for people like me is when you start like seeing the impact that it's actually working and you're leveling up and you're getting the results, and it's like it's so it's such a powerful drug that you just keep going, and the laziness just kind of like it melts away.
Yeah, I feel that the self mastery is probably the funnest game in the human experience. Um,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I do like it does seem like the general theme of our conversation has been like, play, level up your software and play software dependent games, not hardware ones. And like you can look at people that are like the Druckenmillers, people trading into their 70s, like still killing it in markets. It's like, you know, this is a game you can play forever. It's not like basketball.
I mean, he's definitely a great example. He's one of the people that I think, for us younger traders, I'll put myself in the category with you, because when it comes to Druckenmiller,
Fair, fair.
it's I'm still, yeah. But yeah, he's a great one. I really believe in like learning from others. Even in my career, the bosses I've had, they had a lot of faults, some of them, but you still learn something. If someone had, I'm very like respectful of real world like success. Like I don't have time for people who just like talk themselves up and just keep describing their accomplishments. But if someone has like proven something, like they have been the top performing portfolio manager, and they have built something from scratch, and there's like a real world proof of accomplishment, even you know uh, even if like they're stupid in certain ways, or they don't seem to get certain things. I have a lot of like respect and like humility for, they have achieved something, and it really allows you to learn certain aspects from them, even if you disagree with their management skills, or a lot of other stuff. um I think what you said is like, intelligence is like being able to achieve your goals, and like affect the real world, right? Like if someone has managed to do that, it means there's something to learn from their process, like even if you don't do all of it. Like, so yeah, like Drunken Miller is one of these people. I mentioned Ray Dalio. um Yeah, like there's something to pick up, even if you don't like respect everything about them.
Yeah, completely agree. It's interesting how much crypto has shaped my understanding and my definition of intelligence in such a short time.
How has it shaped it?
Well, I mean, it's like, like you watch like movies like Good Will Hunting, and like, I think normal people think that like a smart guy is just someone that like has a lot of knowledge and is very quick. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I think my definition of that has definitely changed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair.
All right, well,
Can I turn it, can I turn it to you for a second? Like, crypto versus
sure.
your previous like world. Like, we talked about how altcoins are wild. We talked about some of the structure being different. What do you think is like unique to crypto markets that is not applicable to traditional market?
So we touched on like how everything's just like rooted in a lot less fundamentals than any other market, and I mean it does seem to be like the trend. It just seems less and less rooted in fundamentals. Um,
Everything is Ponzi. Everything is computer.
yeah. I think it's almost the opposite. It's like everything is human. It's like one of the most human markets right
Yeah.
now, and it's not always going to
Hmm.
be, but it is where like human emotion is like in most control right now, which is like for better or for worse.
I mean, this social layer, like you describe it, like this human, like this social layer matters so much. It kind of ties into what we were talking about, incentives. You look at like the incentives that certain projects or certain things create, either with administration or, um, like there's Bitcoin, for example, thankfully, like has this neutrality that drives people and incentivizes them maybe from like a different place. But um, certain assets get more supported than others, and that influences the price. And it's like a social layer thing. It's not a technical chart thing.
Right. It is. Um, and I mean, I've like reframed when I first joined. I was like, dude, this thing is fucking worthless. This thing is going to zero. This thing is useless. A complete waste of human um, intelligence and effort. And I think that was like the common view of not just crypto, but also like, oh, like everyone in the 2010s was wasting their time, um, building ads and social media. It was a complete waste of talent. But all that data that it generated on the internet and all the infrastructure that these companies had to build with like data pipelines, distributed computing, cloud computing, whatever. Like all this thing helped form like and help speed up the development of AI as we know it today. So like at the end of the day, it got us where we wanted to go. It was just a very convoluted path. So
Mm.
I started thinking of crypto in the same sort of way as like, maybe it's not very obvious how it's going to be helpful right now, but maybe in a decade's time we'll see how it's been useful for society. And I'm still like unclear what that use case could look like. Maybe all it could be is just that like it's a really good game for allocating capital to talent very quickly at a young age, and it just gets money in the hands of like people that are high agency and smart and can change the world very quickly instead of having to go through the traditional world and work decades to get there. And maybe what they do afterwards is what makes crypto, justify the means. But I'm still forming this thesis in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that's not like there is this general concept of male competition, and like as like a human species, we want the best genes to be passed on. Otherwise, we're all gonna go extinct if we're all descendant from like retards. We wouldn't be able to do anything. And like these kind of like high capital formation games give a chance to like the most talented people to in this age like of boomers having all the money, they get to like compete and see who can get resources and sort of like establish themselves, and the ones who don't sort of uh but like that's true like outside of, I don't know, like I feel like that's true in general, like in the society we've created. There's a lot of games like this. Obviously like crypto kind of hyper accelerates it to maybe like unhealthy levels. But yeah, I don't know if like that's the use case specifically. I think like from my side, like crypto, like the thing that always drew me. I talked a little bit about the period in 2020 when the fiat masters just started changing rules and deciding winners and losers in a way that like neutrality shouldn't do. And I don't believe Bitcoin is a perfect instrument. I talked about the flaws of using it too extensively, but it is like a counterweight that is good to have in society, for like the social conscious. Like the more Bitcoin kind of goes up versus fiat, it's sort of like a slap in the face and just like a reminder to these like fiat overlords that they're kind of fucking it up, and get your shit together. Um, so like that's like one of the use cases. And then I think like just from a pure technology perspective, as a tech gets better, like the AI agent world, especially like this like coming age will just be using crypto rails for all kinds of stuff, and there will be like a lot of money made by the people that um are building those like pathways.
Fair enough. I can get behind the neutrality thing. I still think gold is better, just overall, but that's a bigger debate we can talk about some other time. Um, yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see because like we won't know for like a decade or two. So yeah, I guess we'll come back and 10 years.
I mean, like, I mean, what are we gonna see? Like, if the market cap of gold versus the Bitcoin has
Well,
changed,
I mean,
or what's
If
the?
Bitcoin keeps going up, then obviously, like, you have to admit that, that's what Bitcoin is useful for. Yeah, I
I,
think you just tell just from price. If it goes to zero, then it's clear it was nothing.
I see. Okay, fair, fair.
Maybe
Okay.
this take will age poorly, but I still think it's like rollerblading, like I said in the podcast a couple weeks ago. People love that
Uh,
analogy.
yeah, cool. I mean, yeah, it's awesome to talk with you, man. Seems like audience very engaged. Any last thoughts?
Um, so I'm going to like, so Jack Schrager likes to like write an intro paragraph, and then they get into like the Q&A, and then he does like a summarization at the end. So I'm gonna work on that today and over the coming days, and I'll send you over like a draft. I'm gonna the conversation was a little like especially towards the end was a little like out of order, so I'm just probably gonna like reorder a bit to make it like flow more naturally in the text version. But yeah,
Yeah, there's some good AI tools, I hear.
I might just like listen to it and type it all out.
Oh man, old school.
Old
Old
school,
school.
raw dog it, yeah.
All right. That's awesome.
But yeah, thanks for hopping on, and yeah, it was a very interesting, insightful discussion.
Yeah, man. Always good to chat.
All right,
See. Thanks everybody for joining us.
yep, take care.